Oops. Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. My name is Cindy. It is November 11th. Please, if you have not done so, take a moment to acknowledge the day and the meaning of the day, to acknowledge the liberties and freedoms that we have globally, that people have given the ultimate sacrifice for so that we can enjoy them. You know, it strikes me that literally globally, we lost almost an entire generation. And those that did not, die on the fields, in some ways, a lot of them really did continue to suffer once they returned home. So let us be mindful of today and what it means. Okay, so I got asked a really interesting question, and it is a way that I have not sort of looking at the cards, and so I thought I would give that a try. You know, we focus a great deal on what the Democratic Party is doing and what the Republican Party is doing and how that's working and whatever, but somebody asked me to actually just look at how the people are doing, how the people of those parties, the people who have always voted liberal, Democrat, and the people who have always voted Republican, how are they doing? If I mix up my titles like liberal, Democrat, whatever, I just actually finished doing a Canadian political reading. If you are interested in it, it should have been released just a little bit before this one, so go look for it if you want to view it. Oops. And so I might get my, phraseology mixed up here a little bit. Okay. So first I thought the way to do this was literally to look at, separate them out and look at each party separately. So I want to start with the GOP, the Republican Party, and I want to know actually how their members feel. What's going on out there in America? What are the actual people who vote these representatives in? What is it they're feeling and thinking? Come on down. So, how are we going to do this? Let's look at U.S. Republican attitudes. U.S. Republican attitudes. U.S. Republican attitudes. I have to tell you, these were not the cards that I would have expected to come out for on a reading pertaining to the Republican voters of the United States. And I think I'm understanding why there's a distinction, and I'll get to that. So what they're showing me now is that there is an energy that is looking for some clarity and an explanation of what exactly is going on right now, particularly with the impeachment and the whole Ukraine thing and the whole Russian thing. People are just, they're kind of desperate to get some clarity on it, to see things from a clearer perspective. There are that percentage of Trump voters who are not Republican voters anymore. And that's the distinction here. So we're actually going to have to read on, the Trump, the always Trumpers, right? That group, we're going to have to separate them out. So the actual Republicans who are still Republicans, they are looking for some clarity and some honest truth, and for it to be spelled out in a way that gives clarity to the situation, that makes it easy to see how all of the pieces fit together. And there's fighting and squabbling, and there's people who are not going to agree or even agree to disagree. But for the most part, those people who still consider themselves Republicans are looking for some real clarity in this situation. They're looking to find out exactly what the heck has been going on in Washington while they have been busy trying to live their life and take care of their business. There's starting to be sort of a real awareness, just generally, that things maybe should have, more attention should have been paid. This was not one of those elections where you could vote and then forget about it for 4 years. And for lots of people, they're just starting to wake up, and they're going, good heavens, what on earth is going on? Like, how has this thing gotten so out of control? We don't understand. We need more information to figure out what is actually what. People who, were actual Republicans, they worry, they fret, they're scared. They do concern themselves with sort of the liberties that Trump appears to be taking in terms of abuses of power. And many who have not withdrawn or pulled away from the Republican Party yet, I expect are going to do so. Does that include, the cult of Trump? No, it does not. Yeah. This is it, right? They're looking at this situation and they're saying the day-to-day person, the average person, has been completely disregarded and left out in the cold. So many promises were made. So many promises. I'm going to do this for you and that for you, and I'm going to make this wonderful and better than it ever was. And they're looking at their lives and they're saying, you know what? We're in a position where we literally are trying to hang on to every single cent that we have, every possession that we own, because nothing feels safe or secure anymore. So you've got that group of Republicans, and I think that a significant number of them who have still not left the party will, as this impeachment thing heats up. And it's interesting because I actually think part of what is going to send some of these people or push them away from the Republican Party is they're looking at their representatives, right? They're looking at the people that they sent to Washington to speak for them. And they're recognizing that those people who are supposed to have their backs and who are supposed to be in there fighting for them, that they are so wrapped up and so in such a defensive posture trying to protect Trump that they sound, frankly, foolish. Okay, just plain foolish. I don't even know how thinking people in Lindsey Graham's, district, in Jim Jordan's, in that Meadows guy, whatever his first name is, 100% of their constituents are not convinced that Trump is virtually almost the second coming, okay? And they are still in that place where they are really struggling to figure out exactly what the heck happened to the people that they have sent to Washington to represent them. Make no mistake, Trump still has a very solid base, but there is concern that he is a little bit out of control. and that nobody seems to actually be interested in controlling him from the Republican Party. It's kind of important that over the next little while, those Republicans are actually made to feel as if they have somewhere they can go, a new home, even if it's a temporary home as a independent, because they are looking at the situation, and lots of them feel like life has not gotten better for them. They're in either the same or worse financial shape than they were when Mr. Wonderful vowed to make their life, roses and balloons, and that has not happened. So some of these Republicans are a little bit more clear-headed than you actually think they might be. They're being very quiet right now. And make no mistake, they are very concerned about that whole bribery attempt with the Ukraine and Trump, because a lot of them are very, very confused about the change of policy when it came to Russia, and they're not exactly understanding what's going on there. On the surface, they can say, well, sure, we should try to, make relationships friendlier between the US and Russia, because it's not good to have enemies like that. And they agreed with that statement, and frankly, probably a lot of people do. But what they're saying, what they're feeling is well, that's kind of different though than handing Russia everything they want on a silver platter. So the Republicans who have been Republicans for a long time, some of them who have now become very staunch never Trumpers, those people who haven't left the party yet, this impeachment inquiry is going to cause some more of them to start doubting what they actually thought was going on. There's just going to be some changes in attitudes or opinions or focus. So I want to take a look at the evangelicals. Apparently there was a poll that came out yesterday, and I know I don't have the information right because it's flown out of my brain already, but a significant number of evangelicals, I think it's something like 90%, who basically said Trump should not be impeached, Trump should not be removed from office. And a really large percentage of them, I think it was something like 75% or something, that said there was literally not one thing that Trump could do that would cause them to break from their support of him. Now, I have read on this group before and their attitudes. For those of you who maybe haven't seen it, if you go back into sort of my catalog of videos, there's one called The Family, which is, it gives some sort of more clearer insight of what is going on with that grouping of people. All right, let's look at the evangelicals. Let's look at the people who will not, no matter what, step away from Trump. What do we know with them? What's going on with them? Tell me about evangelicals and Trump. Tell me about evangelicals and Trump. Tell me about evangelicals and Trump. Yepper, here we have it. And in some ways, these cards just tell the whole story, okay? Because make no mistake, the people who are supporting Trump and defending Trump and think Trump is amazing, it's not about him. Except that they see him as the vehicle or the catalyst to bring about an Armageddon, which will then usher in the second coming of Christ. It is that simple. And honestly, the more imperfect Trump is, the more they support him, because they have been told that being an imperfect vessel is all basically anybody is. And the more imperfect, the stronger should be your support of them. They're celebrating, people. They are celebrating. The evangelicals cannot wait for things to move ahead faster. So every time he pushes back on established sort of norms, okay? Every time he pushes back against easily accessible abortion, every time he pushes back against, gay rights, every time he pushes back against same-sex marriage, every time he pushes back against anything that would be considered more inclusive, sort of more liberal, they just think he's awesome for doing that. Awesome. They do not want their world to change. They want it to stay the way it is, with those old values and those old ideas and attitudes and opinions. And because they believe that a race war is what is going to bring about the Armageddon. So that just gives you some idea of what they believe brown and black people have to offer America, which is nothing except being the element that those good white folks can then fight against to create an unholy war, which then is supposed to bring down the second coming. So the more he pushes back, the more outrageous he sounds, the crazier he sounds, the more they love him, the more they're going to celebrate him. And in their heads, this is the first time in a really, really long time that they actually see things moving forward quickly. And so any idea that, there is nothing that is going to tell these people that, wait a minute, this isn't going to work this time, because everything they see tells them it absolutely is going to completely work this time. They feel the energy moving towards their goal. Their goal is a fight that takes them out of the turbulent waters of earth into rapture, and the way to get that accomplished is to die. So they see him almost like the appointed one, the anointed one. They see him as a savior. I shudder to use those words, okay? But here's my trump card. They see him as an emperor. He can do no wrong. He is all powerful. There is nothing. Like, they have almost bestowed upon him. It's like a cult. Okay. So they bestow on Trump supernatural powers, like an anointed one. Like he can do, he is who they must follow to the rapture. And they're not going to change their mind. They're not going to change their mind. What you can be comfortable with or trust or hope for at best is that, and understand this, they are a dying breed, okay? They are a group of people whose base is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and whose numbers are not increasing but decreasing. So eventually they're going to lose this vice-like grip they currently have on the Republican Party. Unfortunately, right now, there's some leaders in the Republican Party who are completely and totally associated and immersed with these evangelicals. So they are part of the problem, frankly. But eventually, the grip is going to loosen simply because they're not going to have the number and the powers. But truly, in order to bring them sort of into alignment. Like, I don't want to say, remove them from the face of the earth. Like, I'm not, but what you need is an understanding, frankly, by the rest of America, that this small group of people who really do want to bring around the events that are going to create this religious rapture for them, the rest of America has to actually take a good hard look at what they are doing, that or not doing, more importantly, that allows these people to get such a grip. And they got a really firm grip. Oh, yes, they did. And they have coalesced around somebody who has no morals, no center, no sense of decency, frankly, very little intelligence. But he is what they believe is going to bring about the fulfillment of their religious doctrine. So, all you can do, really, is push back against them and say, you know what? Maybe, even maybe I don't think Trump is so terrible, but maybe, you know what? I really, I don't like some of the things or a lot of the things that he is doing or standing for. Those people need to get off the bench. They need to just start really pushing forward, because otherwise that group of people, they are small, but you know what? They are mighty. And whenever I think about the evangelicals, the same expression always comes to mind, which is the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And they're loud, and they're annoying, and they're obnoxious. But they're the ones who get listened to because nobody else is making more noise. And that was how they were able to accumulate and acquire, frankly, the strength that they did over the last, many, many years. Mitch McConnell understands this perfectly. It's very clear to him, and he knows exactly how to maneuver and manipulate. And that's kind of what is going on there, frankly. So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind, that the evangelicals, you are never, ever going to change. So don't focus on them. Focus on creating the change you want to see. Alrighty. Let's take a look at Democrats, and we're going to put independents in with this grouping, even though I know that there are independents who are not necessarily in favor of the some of the opinions and philosophies, if you will, of the Democratic Party. So let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at Democrat independent voters for the election. Democrat independent voters regarding the election. The Democratic independent voters regarding the election. It's interesting that I keep getting these one card sort of that sit there and won't do what I want. So we'll take those and incorporate what we see here. All right. So, in fact, this temperance card actually is rather significant, because what it's talking about is the need for there to be a balance, a need for the extremes to come towards center a little bit, so that basically you can draw towards you the biggest base, the biggest, the highest numbers. And those people who are independents or who are, never Trump Republicans are not going to gel well if the Democrats, if they perceive the Democrats as being really, really, hard to the left. They're not, it's not going to go well. So that's one of the things that the Democrats have to start to realize, is that people who are Democratic are very, very keen on some of these really sweeping and dramatic changes. And I'm not saying they're not right. I'm saying that if you are trying to, by a landslide, get somebody out of office, you have to appeal to more people than are frankly enjoying or wanting the exact same things that you want. And I'm getting the craziest picture here in my head, and they're literally showing me, you know, like when you go into a bakery and they have all of those lovely cakes and pies and cookies, and they're all, you know, sort of behind that glass display, and they're so lovely to look at, and you look at them and you just, you know, can't even decide which one you want. But invariably, you probably settle for your favorite, the thing that you're used to, the thing that you're comfortable with. So if that's cheesecake, it's cheesecake. If it's chocolate cake, it's chocolate cake. If it's apple pie, it's apple pie. And if it's, you know, oatmeal raisin cookies, it's oatmeal raisin cookies. But if you're trying to get other people who don't shop at your bakery in through the door, you cannot just rely on the cheesecake, chocolate cake, apple pie, and cookie group. You have to start looking at, I don't know, cream puffs, muffins, tarts. You have to appeal to a broader audience. That's what I'm trying to say. Maybe not that eloquently. And so that's something that the Democrats are really going to have to start. And I'm talking specifically about, you know, some of the people who are running for that presidential nomination. There needs to be a little bit more coming to center. And I suspect there will be. I sincerely hope there will be. Because otherwise, that is where you run the risk of Trump being able to squeak by, because the block of people who are going to be instrumental in getting him out of office start to splinter. That's when you're going to have a problem. They continue to hear things that upset them. They hear the truth. They don't like the truth. These people want to know where the government is, what they're doing, how they're pushing back, and how they're fighting back. And they understand that that system has started to unfold. Okay, and so a lot of these people, a lot of the Democrats are, you know, looking at strengthening the race, paying attention, getting those details out. They really do see that it's still work. It's not going to be a cakewalk to get this great victory. It is also not going to be as hard as they think it will be. That is part of what goes on is, you know, the media in particular, I mean, they have to keep people interested. And so every once in a while, they'll throw out this sort of, you know, verbiage that, you know, how could Trump win? Or Democrats going, you know, soft, support is soft. And what it does is it creates a sense of fear or anxiety in people. And I want you to push back mentally against that, because every time you fall into that fearful thinking, it then becomes a kind of thinking that you have to cancel and correct going forward, if you will. So be mindful that you want to stay positive, because in a real positive, energetic way, the change that you want is going to come. It's going to take work. It's going to take communication. It's going to take resources. But there absolutely is the potential to create some real sweeping change. Perfect. Okay, so what you have is using all of the tools at your disposal, not just the tools that appeal to a small percentage of people, all the tools to create the hope that this situation can come to an end. And honestly, and get rid of the secrecy. Okay, so on that note, I think that is a good and happy note to end this with. Thank you so much. I'm so honored that you continue to support this channel. My new subscriber numbers are going up at a really lovely sort of steady pace. And so for all of the new people who have subscribed and the new people who have been introduced to my videos and enjoy them, thank you very, very much. I will remind you again that if you're interested in a private reading, that box below me there will give you the sort of the avenue to reach out to me and get to me, so we can, you can find out the details and move forward on that. I currently have a few openings the last week of November and then into the first 2 weeks of December. And then I won't be doing any more private readings unless something is incredibly important or vital, until after the new year, so that I too can focus on, my family and Christmas here. So thank you from my heart. I very much appreciate your support, and I look forward to seeing you again. Until next time, take care, be well. I'll see you soon.